Hello, I'm Russ Binkley. It's an honor to share at this event to commemorate the life of Sue Noffke. Words are inadequate, but are they all that we have? I came to the University of Illinois in August of 2000 to earn my PhD. I was to be one of Sue's advisees. I don't know how I was assigned to Sue, but I'm grateful that someone had the wisdom to connect us. I don't think I could have been matched with a better mentor. There are a lot of reasons that I think I was fortunate to be Sue's teaching assistant. We met every Monday morning, usually out in the common area in the education building, one or two other TAs and Sue, to reflect on and process the previous week's classes and to plan for the coming week. These meetings were real highlights for me. It was perfect training, a balance of creativity and reflection. It was also great to learn from Dr. Noffke's experience in teaching and her community involvement. Undergraduate students who had our social studies methods classes at the time often remarked that our regular meetings impressed them as they saw and heard us modeling a thoughtful practice. If you would observe my teaching today, you would see the imprint of Sue Noffke. She gave me permission to pursue social justice in teaching, to learn to help beginning teachers to interrogate schooling, to recognize what our world needs. Sue lives on in my teaching. Sue mentored many international graduate students. I'm so grateful that I got to be among that number, even though I was not an international student. One fall, she told me about a new student from Kenya who was there on a Fulbright, whom she was concerned about. He seemed to be having some health issues, and she wished I would check in on him. She mentioned it several times, and finally, it sunk in that I ought to act on her request. I sought out that student by going to his apartment in Champaign. He wasn't feeling well, but that illness eventually passed. But most significantly, now I count him as one of my best friends. That student was Winston Akala. I've always suspected that Sue had this friendship in mind all along, and now I wish I had asked her if that was her intention. Since then, my wife and I have gone to visit Winston and his family in Nairobi. Now, I'm in the midst of planning an international study course to take undergraduates to Kenya. I wouldn't be on this path without Sue's influence. In addition, I need to acknowledge how Sue modeled absolute respect for the undergraduates in our methods classes. I try to emulate that now. Sue lives on when I'm able to build good, respectful relationships with my students.
I'm a proud Illini, I'm a proud graduate of the College of Education, and I have the honor and privilege to also call myself one of Sue Noffke's former students. I had the chance to meet Sue pretty much from the moment I arrived on campus back in 2002 to begin my master's. First exchanges were mostly passing through the kind of good afternoon, Dr. Noffke, good evening, Dr. Noffke, hello, Dr. Noffke. Then in 2005, I actually had the chance to be her student, and I took her action research class. It was a very interesting learning experience. I have heard about action research for a long time. In language education, people use it often. Then I learned, thanks to Sue's teachings, that people misuse it more often than they actually use it. She taught me not only what it means to be an action researcher, she taught me what it means to be a researcher, period. She taught me what it means to be an advocate, what it means to mentor people who wish to become researchers. One of the best lessons I learned from her was the whole notion that an expert has one particular function. when he's working or she's working on action research in a community. To make sure that at some point the expert can leave and the research can continue without him or her. That, for me, was revealing. After the class, we continued talking, we continued exchanging ideas. Then I had the honor to have Sue in my dissertation committee. Her sharp mind was remarkable. As a scholar, she was inquisitive. She quizzed me. She asked me the tough questions that you're supposed to ask a growing scholar to turn him into a better scholar. During my work with the dissertation, I also got the chance to see a more personal side of Sue. I had the pleasure of running into her once in this very town in Medellin, and I could see her excitement for visiting this country. That led to more conversations about life in Colombia, about Spanish. She was at some point learning Spanish at Parkland. So our conversations moved onto many different topics, and her advice was always on target. Sometimes it was difficult to talk to her because she was busy, but even when she was busy, she would take time to answer a question, to give you a word of comfort, which sometimes are sorely needed when you are doing your PhD or when you are writing your dissertation.
I met Sue and her husband Bob in September 2005, and by the end of my dissertation writing in May 2009, Sue and Bob were our witnesses of marriage. I would like to talk to you about in what ways Sue touched my life. I came to the University of Illinois in August 2005 as a Fulbright scholar for pursuing my PhD in art education. I had just met Yunus back then, and he provided vital help for how to maneuver through graduate studies at a US university. Because of Sue's and Yunus's common interest in Marxism and critical pedagogy and the personal bond they had formed, Yunus talked about Sue and her brilliant scholarship and activism. He talked often about it, and therefore I was curious and very excited when we visited Sue and Bob on Labor Day weekend, one of the several occasions where they kindly opened up their home to international students. Excuse me. I had already lived and worked a couple of years in the US before and slowly accustomed myself to some sort of unconditional small talk, like the politeness and seeming openness of Americans that so many Europeans misinterpret as being superficial. Anyway, we barely spent 20 minutes at their place, and Sue did not waste any time. She meticulously peppered me with questions about my experience as an educator, both in the United States, Germany, and Austria, and about the status of Yunus's and my relationship, which we just had known each other 3 weeks by then, and things were not defined at all. She was almost protective of him. I was shocked about her precise questions and straightforwardness. After all, she had just met me and addressed issues that I, in my personal life and professional development, had avoided. Many people here in Turkey love her, because in addition to her scholarship about learning through inquiry and addressing inequities within the classroom, they got to see the wonderful human that she was, both during various visits at the annual Qualitative Inquiry Congress in Urbana, and when Sue came for several days to give a keynote at a conference of the Turkish Educational Research Association where Yunus invited her in May 2011. The next step, which we brought up again during our recent visit in May, would have been to invite both Bob and Sue to hold a seminar in their respective fields at Çanakkale University. Yunus and I are very thankful for Sue's friendship, her generosity, and her ongoing inspiration. She left an indelible imprint through her scholarship, her brave activism, her warmth, her courage when dealing with her illness, and her modeling of mothering and marital life.